All righty, here we go. It is a brand new Flyers Daily for the 3rd of January, 2025. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers fall in, I guess this is game 4 of the trip. I guess you count the Pittsburgh game before the holiday. Well, it's game 4 of this portion of the trip, the West Coast portion. They got the win in Anaheim. They got the loss against the Kings. They got the win against San Jose, and they catch a 5-2 loss last night against the Vegas Golden Knights. In Vegas, a really good team coming in, highest points percentage in the NHL, top team in the league, and a team that will wear you down. It's pretty odd. Vegas, decent first period team, not a great second period team. They're actually -4 in goal differential in second periods. And in third periods, they've been unbelievable. Lead the league in goals. They had 2 more tonight in the third period to salt away the win against the Flyers. Flyers ended up getting outshot 27-25 in the game. Flyers did have 2 power plays, ended up with a power play goal. Vegas wins 57% of the draws. Started off good. Game starts off, Tyson Foerster picks up a goal just 21 seconds in. First shift of the game, you'll take it. Good work by the Flyers, flipping the strong side of the ice on 2 occasions. Eventually, it ends up on the right side to Bobby Brink, who then makes a little play, kind of deflects off a Vegas player, ends up being able to push the puck to Noah Cates, who's right at the right side of the net down along the goal line. And he convinces Samsonov that he's going to try a stuff play. And Samsonov bites it as he kind of turns. Samsonov goes down and lunges forward and locks up. And instead of the stuff play, Cates just shovels a little pass to the slot where Tyson Foerster is sitting on clean ice, and he gets it and bangs it home. Flyers go up 1-0. Brink and Cates with the assist on Tyson Foerster's 11th of the season. All of a sudden, Foerster got 11 goals. He's pacing now. We're not at the halfway point. He's pacing at about 25-goal pace. Like to see him get above that, around that 27-28 range, if he can continue with some consistency putting the puck in the net. That line's obviously been good, and he's been a benefactor of that. And he's been a big part of why it's been good as well. So Flyers go up 1-0 early, and then they end the first period with the 1-0 score. You knew you were going to get pushback from Vegas in the second. Bruce Cassidy was not going to go in that locker room and let his guys off the hook for that first period. They only had 4 shots on goal, did Vegas in the first. They're coming off a loss at home against the Montreal Canadiens 3-2. They came out ready to play, and they were ready early and often. 51 seconds in, it's Mark Stone who picks up his 9th. Just a really good play from Jack Eichel as he kind of migrates through the neutral zone and into the Flyer zone and moves to the middle of the ice, but stays high. Doesn't kind of pull some players out with him a little bit, but it allows him to get his head up and survey the options, which he does, and he's got a good one. Mark Stone goes right to the top of the crease, is able to get inside positioning on Rasmus Ristolainen, and he tips it home, and that ties the game at 1. It's Stone's 9th. Eichel and Hannafin pick up the assist, and then Nick Hague gets the next Vegas goal, and this is the video portion of the podcast, because on this Nick Hague goal, there's a couple of things here with this goal that I want to discuss. If people are listening to this on the podcast, I'll try and make it as visual as possible, but I do encourage you to go and see this on the Flyers YouTube channel as well. As you see this here, the puck comes down from below the Flyer goal line, and Joel Farabee, if you stop it right there, if you just go back and look at it, he is not coming back to the puck. He's waiting on the puck. And Nick Hague reads that, and he crashes down the wall. Farabee wants to be coming back to the puck, then he tries a quick spin move. Hague goes right through the hands, takes the puck away, and then goes behind the net and gets the wraparound goal on Alexei Kolosov. So the first thing is Flyers get hemmed in way too often. They got to come back to the puck there, make a chip off the boards, get that by the crashing D. You know he's coming down the wall. They're an aggressive team on the forecheck. So that's part of it. That's number one. Number two is as Hague gets this, he's coming down low, and he makes a little move to the middle of the ice. You don't ever really get the sense that he's going to go there. But if you look at the positioning right now of Alexei Kolosov, his right leg is outside the post. With his leg outside the post, he's got further to travel on a wrap play, number one. And number two, he can't use that leg inside the post to push off the post to get over. And as you see, he's late getting over, not able to close his legs up on the post seal, and it ends up in the back of the net, hitting off his right leg and finding the back of the net. And now, boom, it's 2-1 Vegas. Flyers So just one of those things. You can't overcommit on the strong side because you're not going to be able to get there for the wrap in the NHL. So Nick Hague gets the goal there. That puts Vegas up 3-1 in the game. And then at 18:22 of the second period, Pavel Dorofeyev picks up the goal. And again, John Tortorella's talked about this, the face-off play as it being an epidemic. And it has been for the Flyers. This is another goal right off a set face-off play where the Flyers just don't get off the line, if you will, like a pass rusher to thwart the draw back to the point. So here it is. They win the draw. They push it right back to the point. You got two Flyers coming out, but they're late on it. And they flip it to Dorofeyev, who is on the left hash mark or right hash mark for the draw. And he just migrates over to that great spot, shoots it through Cam York's legs. You see right here, the Flyers kind of get clogged up a little bit. They don't get out. Foerster doesn't get out far enough to thwart the D-to-D pass, and Dorofeyev gets it. And you'll see he just goes right through the legs of Cam York, who's a little late getting out. He's got Sanheim there on the net front guy, so you're redundant, and they're a little behind the play on that. And Dorofeyev does a great job using Cam York as a screen. Kolosov's got to look around at short side. He reads that. Where does he go? He goes long side through the legs and is able to beat him. And that puts Vegas up in the game now. At that point, it's 3-1, Dorofeyev. Hague's goal, by the way, was the 2-1 goal. I said 3-1. So we head to the third period, Flyers trailing by 2. And then Alexander Holtz in the third puts Vegas up 4-1. And this is one that it's just a quick regroup, and he goes through the neutral zone and, again, uses the screen to hide the release, and it just fools Alexei Kolosov. I think this shot might have been going wide if Kolosov didn't hit it off his glove. You see Foerster looks none too pleased. Like, come on, give me a save. I need a save in that game. But a quick regroup right up there. It's a 3-on-2 mini, and he used the screen to hide the release. Part of the goaltender's job. You can see it here beautifully. Drysdale, and then boom, hides the release, goes across the body, and Kolosov can't catch up to it. And part of the goalie's job is to find a way to battle through screens to get that puck at release. The difference for a goalie getting eyes on the puck at release versus not is a huge disadvantage when you can't see it off the blade of the stick. He's got to get his head bobbing and weaving and find that puck. And he doesn't do it there, and he pays the price. Same thing probably on the Dorofeyev goal that goes through York's 5-hole. Got to find a way to do that. And look, these are the things that are hard to learn at the NHL level, which is why, some guys being in the AHL level, it's way more forgiving in the AHL. Guys in the NHL, like Dorofeyev, he shoots it through the legs long side, reading the fact that you're shading short side to look around the screen, and York is slightly shaded to the middle. On that last goal there, the fourth goal, these guys know how to hide their release, and they know how to pick the corner on you when they do. And these are things that in the NHL is just so unforgiving. It's why I always push back on the people that say, just play the kids. You're not going to be, it's not about this year. It's about the long term. Just play the kids. Well, right now, frankly, in my opinion, Kolosov looks overmatched. He's had games where he's looked really good and he makes dynamic saves, of course. And goalies will do that. The key to being ready for the NHL is to be able to do that with consistency. And maybe when you're not ready for the NHL and you're overmatched a bit, this is what happens. Slotting is so important in sports. Having a player in the role that he's supposed to be in his development is really important. It's like with Jamie Drysdale's playing third pairing right now with the D, with Nick Seeler. And he's been much better because he's not being asked to defend the other team's top two lines. It's a better matchup for him. It'll help his development and give him some success on the ice. When you have repeated failure, that's when players really start questioning themselves. They don't just follow the system because you don't get a good result. So same thing with a goaltender. It's even probably more pronounced. You make a mistake as a goaltender, you don't find that puck off release, a horn goes off in an away building and all the fans cheer and point at you, and you gave up the goal. It's an unforgiving, very unforgiving league. Sam Ersson did not skate yesterday. He was not the backup. Ivan Fedotov was the backup in that game. Ersson's day-to-day with a lower body injury. We'll see. We got a few days here before they play again, coming up on Sunday against Toronto. But I would imagine if Ersson's not available Sunday, they will go to the big fella, Ivan Fedotov, in that game Sunday against the Leafs, which begins at home and home. And, the thing is here too, what are we supposed to expect coming into that game from Fedotov, who hasn't been in a game since December 5th, where he only played the first period and got pulled against Florida, and he hasn't played a full game since Black Friday against the New York Rangers on November 29th. So that's a big gap of game action. And I can assure you that the practices don't look like game action this time of year with the travel and everything else in a condensed schedule. So we'll see where this goes for the Flyers and how it plays out. And, there were some YouTube comments on yesterday's show that, the Flyers, because I talked about the fact that Fedotov may have to get in there and play in this situation. Pumpkin King said the Fedotov thing has been mishandled. He should have been sent down to Lehigh Valley to play. Zero chance he would have been claimed on waivers. I agree with that. I don't think he would have been claimed on waivers. He said this is another example of Danny Briere not making difficult decisions. And while I agree, I would like to see him go down and play. I think he was kept up here for the simple reason that Sam Ersson went out already twice, probably with a groin injury, which are very tenuous, to see if Ersson, before sending him down, could get healthy and stay healthy. And obviously that hasn't been the case. He had the collision in the last game against the San Jose Sharks, and now he's injured again. I don't know if it's the same injury or not, but when a goalie's dealing with a groin injury or a lower body injury, anything in that core or groin area, it's tenuous. So we'll see where this goes for the Flyers. Solar Warden had mentioned it and said, who cares? I'm sick of Ersson. He's looked like bleep over a calendar year now. Like, when are you going to realize he's not the future answering goal for this team? Like, not even close. He's a Band-Aid and can't seem to make the saves we need him to. Free Fedotov. Well, look, I think Ersson has had some really good stretches in the NHL. He played decently after Carter Hart left last year, January 20th, I want to say. And then he was being used a lot and wasn't ready for that. Again, he was playing above his grade at that point, and it wore him down. They played him a ton because they didn't have any other options. Felix Sandstrom wasn't an option. Cal Peterson wasn't an option. And he had to be forced into that role that he wasn't ready for. And the team really struggled as well. So that didn't help. But where they go with this goaltending thing right now, I know for the people that are, you need to tank to get the top overall pick, I've always said this, the way to lose in hockey is to have inferior goaltending. And they've had inferior goaltending so far this year. So look, the schedule, nobody's going to throw you a life preserver. They got some tough games coming up as well. In this game that the Flyers played against Vegas, the analytics people will be happy that I bring this up, because the Flyers actually had more expected goals in this game. Now, Brian Smith always says when I bring up expected goals, expected by who? But the Flyers got inside, put a lot of good pressure, as you see on the heat map of the Flyers scoring chances. They got inside, had great chances. They just didn't finish them. Only end up with the 2 goals in the game. So Flyers fall against Vegas. Will be back in action coming up on Sunday in Toronto. Now, in yesterday's episode, I'd asked the question. I brought up what I think my expectations are for the Flyers in the calendar year 2025, how that needs to be a period of moving to the next incremental improving step in this rebuild. You're going to have money coming off the books. You're going to have some contracts end. You're going to have a rising salary cap, and you have more information on some players as well. So some people sent in what their expectations were, including Bill. Bill Sembach says, as I said before, I just found your pod, but I get the idea. Oh, well, this one actually says, I get the idea you've played goalie at some level or levels. Do I assume right? Yeah, I played goalie my whole entire life, from the age of, I guess, officially call it goaltending, around 5 or 6, until I was 50 years of age 2 years ago. He said, if so, do you see Kolosov as soft in terms of being too loose, which leads to leaks and gaps? Watching the Vegas game and that second goal, I could see coming as Coley keeps his opposite legs curled until the last minute, which cost him on that wraparound. I appreciate your insight. Like I said, when we just did the video of the goal, yeah, he's late getting to the post, which is also late getting all the holes closed up. So, look, there's work to be done. I'm not ready to throw him in the recycling bin and say, he can never be a good NHL goaltender, but he's got work to be done. He just came out of the KHL. He's still young too. So a lot of people look at guys like Shesterkin or Sorokin and when they came over and how they were really good in the NHL when they got here. They also got here at 25 and played some AHL, in Shesterkin's case at least. So it's not an easy adjustment to just come over and do it. This one comes from Pete Young. He says, "Hey, Jason, first and foremost, like anyone in your audience, I wish you the best in the health challenge you mentioned sometimes. Kick that challenge's ass. I plan to. And thank you for that." He said, "You really said something on today's podcast, which was yesterday's, which is that this season and moving on to next, the Flyers have to make the move from, I'm paraphrasing, tough little team to not a team to overlook, and a team that actually requires every opponent's best shot, not just the lip service of it." He said that's sometimes a bigger jump than the next one. Like you suggested, it's getting out of purgatory. He said there's no NHL team in Portland, and I'll be damned if I'm going to root for a team out of Seattle. I never had an NHL team to root for, but the last year I got into the Flyers because I was flipping through NHL games on XM, and I was able to listen to sports on my second job. And Tim and Fridge, for whatever reason, helped keep a guy on his second job from going cuckoo in the clock for a couple of hours. I've also visited Philly a couple of times to see my favorite 90s band, the Caulfields. I know the Caulfields. Play reunion shows. So Philadelphia it is. That's the backstory you didn't ask for. Anyhow, thanks for what you do and best wishes for a productive 2025. Yeah, I mean, this next step is a big one. It is a big one, and it's one you have to get right. When you start to make hockey trades for the long term, if you make a free agent signing, they've got to be the right decision because they come with a lot of back end on them, because you're not going to just make a trade for a guy for a year. You're going to make a trade for a guy you're going to have for a number of years. So it's got to be right. That's why you don't just make a trade for the sake of making a trade. Just because there's a guy available, you got to make the right trades, and you got to be discerning in that because it's about roster building. And if you have conversations with some GMs and you're targeting one guy and another guy becomes available, you go, well, I'd rather have the guy I was having the initial conversation with. This guy's available now. Do I wait it out or do I grab this guy? I'm always a guy that go, you get the right guy. You don't get the guy that's first available. You get the right guy. If you have to wait a little bit to get it, you got to get the right guy. It's too hard to win in this league unless you got the right guys, not just the available guys. One more from Joe DeAngelis. He's emailed in several times. He said, I think you're spot on regarding your expectations for 2025. I look at having 6 picks in the first 2 rounds as a positive, but only if at least one first-round pick is in the top 10, preferably the top 5 of the draft. I don't want the Flyers to tank, but let's answer this question honestly. Does picking 13th, 20th, and 26th move the needle in this rebuild? Does this get the Flyers another high end piece to add to Michkov, TK, and the developing core? He said most likely not. Thus, one or two things have to happen. Either the Flyers trade their picks to obtain potential high-end pieces, or they unload a few veterans by the deadline, at a minimum Risto and Lawton, and finish as low in the standings as possible. Having another season like last year, though entertaining, is just keeping the Flyers in purgatory and the rebuild stuck in neutral. Keep fighting. You're in my thoughts and wishing you the very best. Thank you, Joe, for the note at the end and everything else. Couple thoughts on that. You can pick 13th and 20th and get good players. Look at where Charlie McAvoy or David Pasternak was picked, or Nikita Kucherov was taken in the 3rd round. Braden Point was taken in the 2nd round. You can get players. They don't have to be in the top 5. There's a lot of good players in this league that weren't taken in the top 5. That's number one. I don't think you put anything out there with a message to anybody in the organization that you're okay with losing games to better your draft position. I just don't. I don't believe in it. I'll never believe in it. I think you invite a stink into your franchise that does not easily wash off your hands. You get Michkov 7th overall. Now, there were some extenuating circumstances there. Sure. TK's a really good player. It's taken in the 20s. So can you do better if you're drafting in top? Of course. It's a higher percentage, but it's not like you can't get those good players there. And you're drafting 18-year-old kids. They're not shaving yet, most of these kids. Predicting their arc of development is not easy. So you got to be good at that. The teams that are good at that, for the most part, are draft and develop teams like Carolina, like Tampa Bay was. Florida's a team that did it through a lot of trades and moves and those kind of things. There's different ways to do it. I think the Flyers should use at least one of those first-round picks in a hockey trade because we know other GMs, they can justify a trade if a first-round pick's involved. But GMs in this league love first-round picks. It is gold bullion. It's really a first-round pick question mark to me. And if you can use that to get a high-end piece that is a known commodity as opposed to an unknown commodity, then I'm all for it. As far as trading veterans at the deadline, like Ristolainen and Lawton, they're not typical deadline players. And here's why. They both have beyond this year left on their contract. Lawton's got another year. Ristolainen's got 2 more years after this season. So, usually if you're making those deals at the deadline, they're rentals. That's an expiring contract. So it's a whole different type of trade. They don't have guys that fit that mold of final year of the deal rental type player like they did last year with Sean Walker. So it is a little bit different of a situation. But thanks for your email, Joe. Really, really appreciate it as always. And thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching. Flyers will be back in action Sunday. We'll have Bill Meltzer Monday to discuss the weekend hockey and much more. So join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.